Hello everyone, and welcome to today's video. Now today's video is a very special one, as I have some scary Hmong Airbnb rental ghost stories to share. Thank you to the viewers who submitted these stories. Before we get started, consider becoming a YouTube member, where you'll get extra bonus content as well as member-only features. Click that join button next to my channel to become a member. Also remember to leave a like and subscribe, and without further ado, enjoy the show. I want to keep all the names private because this happened while we were in Minnesota for a funeral. And honestly, I don't want our relatives arguing about whether I should have shared this or not. But I will say that the Airbnb that we rented was in Woodbury, Minnesota. It was in a nice neighborhood, not one of those places where you arrive and already feel like something is wrong. It was a clean suburb, quiet streets, it had nice lawns and the newer houses. The kind of area where you see people walking dogs and not worrying too much. There was a total of 6 of us staying there. It was me, my wife, my cousin and his wife, and another cousin with his girlfriend. We had all come into town for a relative's funeral, and instead of everyone getting separate hotel rooms, we thought it would be cheaper and easier just to rent one house from Friday to Monday. We were not there for a vacation or anything fun. We just needed a place to sleep, shower, cook a little bit of food, change clothes, and come back after spending most of the day at the funeral home. The house looked normal when we got there Friday afternoon. It had a small living room where you walked in, a kitchen toward the back, a dining table near the patio door, and a hallway that led us to the bedrooms. There were 3 bedrooms available for people to sleep in. One room at the end of the hallway was locked, but we did not think much of it. A lot of Airbnb owners lock one room for supplies or personal things. There was also a small sign on the door that said private storage, so we left it alone. The first night, we were all tired. Anyone who has been to a Hmong funeral knows how exhausting it can be, especially when you're helping family, greeting people, sitting around for hours, and trying to figure out when food was going to be available. We got back to the Airbnb late at night, probably close to midnight. Everyone was quiet. We all washed up and went to bed. That night, I woke up and checked my phone. It was 3:02 a.m. I woke up because I thought I heard footsteps in the hallway. Not running or stomping, just slow pacing, back and forth. At first, I thought it was one of my cousins getting up to use the bathroom. The hallway floor had this light creak to it, so when somebody walked from the bedrooms toward the bathroom, you could hear it. I lay there, listening and waiting for a door to open. But no door opened. No bathroom fan turned on, no toilet flushed, and the footsteps just went from one side of the hallway to the other. They stopped for a few seconds and then they came back. My wife was asleep next to me, so I didn't wake her up. I told myself that maybe somebody was on the phone and just walking around quietly. Maybe one of the guys couldn't sleep because of the funeral. And after a few minutes, the sound stopped. I listened for a little while longer, and when nothing else happened, I just went back to sleep. The next morning, I casually asked if anyone had been up walking around at night. Everyone said no, and my cousin joked that maybe it was the owner checking on us through the walls. We all laughed because we were tired and didn't want to make it into something. My wife was the only one who didn't really laugh that much. She said that our bedroom had been freezing all night. That did not sound strange to me at first. It was summer and the AC was on. Some rooms just get colder than the others. But she said it was not a normal cold. She said it felt like the corner near the closet was colder than the rest of the room. And it bothered her enough that she woke up a few times and pulled a blanket over her face. I told her that maybe the ventilation was bad, and the 2 of us just brushed it off. Saturday was the longest day. We were at the funeral home most of the day, and we got back to the house tired and kind of just numb. Us guys were already pretty buzzed from the alcohol, so we just took it easy. That night, I remember, while everyone else was in the kitchen eating leftovers, I walked down the hallway to get my charger from my room. As I passed the locked storage room, I heard something moving inside. It wasn't a loud crash. It sounded like someone shifted a cardboard box or dragged something lightly across the floor. I stopped and looked at the door. The hallway was quiet. The others were still talking in the kitchen. I leaned in a little closer, not putting my ear on the door, but just close enough to listen. Nothing happened. I told myself that it was probably the house settling or the AC and ventilation kicking in. I decided to check the doorknob just lightly, and sure enough, it was still locked. I didn't force it. I just went to our room and grabbed my charger and came back. I didn't tell anyone because, most importantly, I didn't want my wife to be scared. I also didn't want to be the guy that was making a big deal about hearing a box move. Later that night, my wife woke me up around 3 o'clock again. She whispered my name and nudged me until I woke up. I was a little annoyed at first because I was so tired, but then I heard it too. Footsteps. This time they were slower. They went past our door, stopped near the locked room, and then came back. I sat up and looked at the bottom of our bedroom door. I could see a thin line of darkness under it from the hallway. There was no shadow that crossed it. That was the strange part. If someone walked by, the hallway light from the small nightlight near the bathroom should have changed, but the sound kept moving without a shadow. My wife grabbed my arm. She asked if I was going to check. To be honest, I really didn't want to, but I also didn't want her to think that I was scared, so I opened the door quickly. The hallway was empty. All the bedroom doors were closed, and the bathroom door was open and dark. The locked room was shut. I stepped into the hallway and listened. Nothing. I walked to the living room and kitchen. Nobody was there. The front door was locked, the patio door was locked, and I checked because that was the most logical thing to do. I even checked the garage door, and the garage was empty. Everything was fine. When I came back, my wife asked if I saw anything, and I told her no. The two of us just decided that it was probably just one of the cousins or their partners waking up in the middle of the night to grab some water or a snack. Now, I thought that only my wife and I were the only ones that had experiences in that house, but it would turn out that my cousin also had an experience in that Airbnb. It was one weekend where we were drinking and grilling meat in his backyard. He suddenly mentioned that Airbnb that we rented for that weekend. He asked if I experienced anything weird. I told him that I heard some footsteps and that was about it. And then he told me about what he experienced. On that Sunday, he and his wife went to visit his wife's family before they came to the funeral. He said that after they got back home from the funeral that Sunday night, it was already pretty late and everybody was already asleep, or almost asleep. His wife went straight to bed, but he couldn't sleep because he said that he wasn't tired and he was still a little hungry. At around midnight, he went to the kitchen to heat up some food. He said that the house was dark, but he could still kind of see around the house. As he came around the corner to the kitchen and turned on the main light, he saw something move across the dining area. He said it looked like a shadow, but not like the shadow of a person standing still. It moved fast, almost like someone ducking away because they almost got caught. It went from near the patio door to where the hallway. Then it was gone. He said at first his brain didn't even register it. It was such a long day that he was just standing there with the styrofoam plate digging through the Ziploc bags for food. He thought that maybe one of us had walked by and he only caught the edge of our movement. He looked down the hallway and didn't see anybody or see any doors shut. He said he didn't care because he was hungry and tired, so he warmed up the food, sat at the table, and ate while watching his phone. He did say, though, that the whole time he was eating, he felt like somebody was standing behind him or watching him. At this point, he was just so hungry and tired that he just didn't care about anything else. Monday morning, we all cleaned up, packed our things, and got ready to go to the burial. There wasn't any problems or any experiences after we left. I did check the reviews after we got home, but all the reviews seemed pretty normal. All I have to say is that if you happen to rent out an Airbnb in the suburbs of Woodbury, Minnesota, then just be careful and make sure it's not the one that we had. Hey guys, quick message before the next story. As you know, due to everyone's undying support, our channel has seen tremendous growth in the past few months in comparison to the years since this channel has been created. As our community grows closer to 10,000 subscribers, I'm hoping to work with potential sponsors to help this channel grow even faster. This will give me the chance to try out different video formats and ideas, as I hope to one day talk in front of a camera instead of being a faceless voice. So, if all things go well, you might get a face reveal from me in the near future. If you're interested or know anyone interested in partnering up with this channel, reach out to my email listed in the description below. Thank you so much to everyone for supporting this channel, and here's the next story. A couple of years ago, I went on a weekend trip with my girlfriend. It was in Lacrosse, Wisconsin. I used to go to school there, so the city has always had this weird place in my heart. It's not like a huge city, but it's definitely one of the more popular cities in Wisconsin where people go to college. My girlfriend had never been there before, so I thought it would be fun to take her for a weekend and show her around. We didn't want to spend too much money, so we found a cheap one-story Airbnb. The photos looked decent. Nothing fancy, but clean enough. It had 2 bedrooms, a small living room, a kitchen, 1 bathroom, and a basement door near the back of the kitchen. We arrived Friday evening after work, and the both of us felt pretty uncomfortable right away. I couldn't explain anything better than that. The place didn't look dirty or creepy. It just smelled a little old, like the carpets were old, but it wasn't bad. Still, the moment that we stepped in, the house already felt like it was, I guess you could say, occupied. My girlfriend looked at me and said that it feels kind of weird. I told her that it was probably because it was quiet and that it was in a pretty quiet neighborhood. I mean, the neighborhood didn't look too bad, but it looked a little sketchy. It was also a pretty cheap rental, so it wasn't like we were expecting a 5-star hotel. We weren't planning to stay inside much anyways. We were going to walk around downtown, get food, maybe go by the campus, and just sleep there at night. We explored the rental like people usually do when they arrive. We checked the bedroom, the bathroom, the kitchen drawers, the AC, got the Wi-Fi password, and all of that normal stuff. Then I went to open the basement door. The basement stairs just went down into darkness. There was a light switch near the top, but when I flipped it, only a weak bulb came on halfway down. It did not have the light that lit up the whole basement. It just made the stairs look even worse. The walls were unfinished and I could smell that old, cold basement smell. I only looked for maybe 5 seconds before deciding to close the basement door. My girlfriend asked if there was anything down there, and I said no. I said that there was nothing down there and we just agreed to not go down. To be honest, there wasn't anything that we would need down there anyway, so we just closed the door. The 2 of us unpacked, changed, and left to explore the city. I showed her where I used to live, where I used to study, the places my friends and I would eat when we were broke, and the streets we walked when we had nothing better to do. We came back home at around 10:30 that night. When I walked toward the bedroom, I noticed that the door was open a crack. I remember closing it before we left. I always do that just because it was always a habit of mine to close doors behind me. But I didn't say anything right away. My girlfriend had gone to the bathroom, so I figured that maybe she opened it earlier and I just forgot. That first night, nothing big happened. We just watched something on my phone and fell asleep. The next day, we had gone out all day. We walked by the river, ate downtown, and came back pretty tired. My girlfriend knocked out before me. I was lying next to her, scrolling on my phone because I couldn't go to sleep. At around 1 in the morning, I heard the toilet flush. At first, I thought it was my girlfriend, that she had gotten up without me noticing, but I was pretty sure she was next to me, so I turned toward her side of the bed and she was still asleep next to me. I even waited a few seconds because I thought maybe the sound came from a neighbor next door. The houses in this neighborhood were pretty close to each other. After thinking about it, I thought to myself that it sounded too much like it came from inside the house, so I just decided to get up and quietly check it out. I got up and walked to the bathroom. The bathroom was empty. The toilet water was still moving a little, like it had flushed recently. I stood there, looking at it, trying to make sense of it. I tried to think of a reason how and why the toilet would have ran by itself. I thought that maybe the plumbing was getting a little old, so I tapped the handle, I checked the tank and told myself that maybe it was just a bad toilet, and then I went back to bed. The next day, I mentioned it to my girlfriend after breakfast. I expected her to laugh or say that I imagined it, but she got quiet. She said that she had woken up earlier that morning because she heard someone walking in the kitchen. She thought it was me, so she reached over to my side of the bed, but I was still there. She was already too tired to fully wake up, so she just went back to sleep. The two of us just brushed it off and went on with our day. We decided to do some grocery shopping and come back home to cook some food. That evening, we decided to stay in and play some board games. The rental had a cabinet in the living room with Monopoly, cards, and Scrabble, and a bunch of random games. It was one of those cabinets that had the glass door that you could see through. We were sorting through the board games when my girlfriend pulled out an old Ouija board. She laughed and then said, "Who leaves this in an Airbnb?" I laughed too, but I honestly didn't like it. The board looked old. It wasn't antique or anything, it just looked like it had been used. The box was soft at the corners, and the planchette was inside in a plastic bag. We made a joke about 5-star haunted amenities and put it back in the cabinet. We chose to play Monopoly instead. With just the two of us, Monopoly took a very long time. It's a game that is faster when you play with more people, but since there was just the two of us, it took a very long time and we didn't finish until maybe around midnight. I don't even think we finished the game, we just decided to give up halfway through because there was nothing much that we could do. Now, one thing that I want you to remember was that before I went to bed, I checked all the doors and made sure that they were all locked. I also checked the kitchen and double-checked the basement door to make sure it was closed. The next morning, the two of us got ready and packed all of our things. We wanted to check out, get some boba tea, and then drive home. My girlfriend packed her clothes while I threw away the stuff in the kitchen and gathered some of the leftover groceries. When I walked into the kitchen, I stopped. The basement door was open. It wasn't wide open, but just open a few inches, enough to show the dark gap in the first stair. I immediately closed it. I also remember it being closed the night before. I even checked on it. But it was daytime now, so I wasn't really that scared. I quickly gathered some of the leftover groceries in the kitchen, and by then my girlfriend was already done packing. The two of us left and grabbed some boba and went straight back home. Ever since then, my girlfriend and I don't cheap out on Airbnbs anymore. We always make sure to read the reviews and get the Airbnb that we think would be the most safest. It was sometime in the summer of 2024. Me and a couple of my cousins and friends decided to rent out a cabin on Airbnb. It was somewhere in the countryside, and it was advertised as a quiet cabin that was good for groups. It wasn't by itself, but there was a couple of other houses and cabins nearby. There were 8 of us in total, 4 couples. Me and my boyfriend went, plus 3 other couples from our friend group. We rented it for a full week just to hang out, play games, get drunk, and get away from work. The cabin looked like most Airbnb cabins that you see online. Open living room with high ceilings, a fireplace, a big sectional couch, a long dining table, a nice kitchen, and a little hallway that led to the bedrooms. 2 bedrooms were downstairs and 2 were upstairs. There was also a laundry room near the back entrance, and it had a locked utility closet. Outside, there was a normal driveway, a small deck, and trees all around. It wasn't deep in the forest, like I said earlier, but at night you could really see the stars in the sky. When we arrived, everything seemed normal. We all picked our rooms, unloaded the food and coolers, argued over whether to put the alcohol or the food first into the fridge, and popped open beers for all of us. It has been a long time since we have all gotten together, so we were all excited to catch up. Next, I want to share some of the weird and creepy things that happened at that cabin. Like I said, this cabin looked like a pretty nice cabin. It didn't look scary or old or creepy at all. One of the first things that I remember was with my cousin's hairbrush. She was the type of person who keeps all of her things in one place. Her makeup bag, her hair straightener, brush, charger, everything has a spot. On the second day, she couldn't find her hairbrush anymore. She asked all the girls if we had borrowed it, but nobody did. She checked her bag, the bathroom, the bedroom, under her bed, and everywhere. She just thought that maybe she misplaced it and decided not to use it. Then, later that night, it was back on her dresser. When I talked to her about this, she thought that maybe we were just messing with her. But I said that we weren't, and that for the most part, all of us were always together. At the time, it wasn't scary. She just said that maybe her partner had picked it up and dropped it off somewhere and decided to put it back. Now, the weird thing about this hairbrush was that it didn't disappear just once. It would disappear a few more times. The brush disappeared from the same spot and came back to the same spot. Not once, but several times during the week. My cousin got so irritated that she took a picture of it sitting on the dresser before we left for dinner one day. When we came back, it was gone. Later, after we watched a movie and karaokeed in the living room, she went back to the room and found it in the same exact place, exactly like the photo. That made us a little bit uncomfortable, but we didn't say anything. Now, another thing that happened was to one of the guys. He had a dream about a little boy. In the dream, he said that he was standing in the hallway outside the bedrooms, and this little boy was walking around crying. The boy kept asking where his family went. He said the boy looked maybe 6 or 7 years old and was wearing pajamas, but old-looking pajamas, like something from the 90s or early 2000s. In the dream, my friend told the boy that he didn't know where the family was. The boy looked at him and said, "They left while I was sleeping." He woke up after that and felt really sad, not scared. For me, the scary thing that I experienced was when I was in the laundry room. I was doing a load of towels because we had used almost all of them after swimming at a nearby lake. The laundry room was small, just a washer, dryer, shelves, and a back door with a window. I was transferring towels from the washer to the dryer when I heard footsteps behind me. It was directly in the room with me. I thought it was my boyfriend, so I said, "Can you grab the dryer sheets?" Nobody answered. I turned around and nobody was there. The room was empty. I could hear everyone else in the living room laughing at something. I stood there holding a wet towel and my whole body felt cold. I quickly tossed the towels into the dryer and started it without even checking the settings and then left. When I told everyone, the guys checked the back doors and windows. Everything was locked. Again, that is what made it believable to me. Nobody ran around screaming, they just checked the normal things first. One of the other cousins had a experience with the bathroom. He said that he got up in the middle of the night and he needed to use the bathroom. He walked into the hallway and noticed that the bathroom light was on, but the door was closed. He knocked because he thought that someone was inside, and nobody answered. He tried the doorknob and it was locked. So he went back to his room and waited. He said that he waited for about 30 minutes, but by then he really had to go, so he went back. This time, the bathroom door was wide open, and the light was off. He didn't hear the toilet flush, he didn't hear footsteps, and he didn't hear the door open. If someone had come out of the room or exited the bathroom, he would have heard them. The next morning, he was making a joke about who was taking such a big dump at around 2 a.m. in the morning. Everyone laughed and pointed at one of the other cousins. That was because that cousin always used the bathroom for a very long time. But he said that he didn't use the bathroom at 2 a.m. He said he used it before he went to bed. All of us just laughed it off, and the ladies and I just prepared breakfast. One of the other scariest things that happened was near the end of the trip. We were all in the living room playing cards. It was late, probably after midnight, and everybody was pretty relaxed. Some people were already drinking and a little buzzed, but not enough to be out of it. We were all loud, laughing, arguing over the rules, and not thinking about anything else. Then, above us, we heard footsteps. It was heavy footsteps. It wasn't upstairs in the bedrooms, but it sounded like higher than the bedrooms, right above us in the living room. Remember how they have that super high ceiling in the living room? You could hear it directly from above us. The footsteps were slow and heavy, like somebody wearing boots stepping from one side of the cabin to the other. Everyone stopped at the same time. One of the cousins asked, "Is there an attic?" Nobody knew. The footsteps continued for maybe about 10 seconds and then stopped right above the living room. We all looked up at the ceiling. My boyfriend turned off the TV, and the cabin became so quiet that I could hear the refrigerator humming. One of the guys said that maybe it was the branches hitting the roof, but there was no wind, and to be honest, the trees were pretty far away from the house. That cousin is just stupid. Another said that maybe an animal, or like a raccoon, had gotten up there. That was possible, so the guys decided to check out upstairs and walk around. But no matter how much they walked around and checked all the rooms and the closets and stuff, they couldn't find anything. There wasn't a pull-down ladder or a hatch or anything like that. I don't think there was a way to get up to the attic. After that, the sound stopped and everybody kind of got a little serious. I guess you can say we pretty much sobered up. We all decided to call it a night and go to sleep. On the last day, we cleaned like our cleaning fee depended on it, even though we already paid one. We stripped the beds, took out the trash, washed the dishes, and packed our cars with our suitcase and luggages. Everyone was tired and ready to go home. We all said our goodbyes and went on our separate ways. It wasn't until a couple of months later when I got together with a couple of the other cousins that we went on the cabin trip with, where we discussed a little bit more about what we saw and experienced there. Remember the cousin that had her hairbrush that kept on disappearing? Well, she explained that while we were leaving and saying goodbye to everybody, she looked up to one of the bedroom windows upstairs. She thought that she saw a dark shadow just standing there behind the glass. But as she darted her eyes to look back at it, it was gone. She thought that her eyes were just playing tricks on her, so she didn't think too much about it. After that, most of us shared our experiences, and that's how you know about what we experienced at the cabin. To this day, we still plan to make another cabin trip, but hopefully this time we won't go into a haunted cabin. You know, reading that last story where they went to that cabin for that cabin trip reminds me of a experience that I had, I believe, last summer when I also had a cabin trip with my family. It was in the middle of the night when I woke up and I was about to have sleep paralysis. And the reason why I knew is because it's just a feeling that I get that I know it's going to come. And on top of that, I get that weird ringing sound in my ears. It starts off pretty quiet, but then it gets louder and louder. And by then, I'm already fighting with whatever it was to break free from my sleep paralysis. Eventually, I break free from the sleep paralysis, and I'm just there laying in bed. By now, I'm like wide awake. I can hear everything. And I kid you not, I can hear 3 knocks coming from the front door. Our bedroom was very close to the living room, so you could hear if people were walking around or if people opened the front door and closed it. And it was weird because it was the middle of the night, nobody was up, and if there was anybody up, you would see the light coming from the living room, and you'd hear drunk people karaokeing late at night. So I just kind of sat in bed, laying there in my bed, wondering what the heck it was. There was no more knocking after that. It was just kind of random. And then after that, I couldn't go back to sleep, so I scrolled on my phone, and the rest of the night, I turned on a lamp to sleep with the lights on because it helps me It helps my sanity at night. But that was my experience at that cabin trip. There wasn't anything else that happened there. That was the only thing that I remember was getting sleep paralysis and then hearing those 3 knocks at the front door of the cabin. But aside from that, I don't think anyone else had any weird experiences either. And if they did, they haven't told me to this day. But yeah, let me know if you guys have had any weird experiences, staying at Airbnbs or rentals. And let me know what you guys think about these stories in the comment section below. As always, consider becoming a YouTube member by clicking that join button, leave a like and subscribe. We're so close to 10,000 subscribers, and I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye, everybody.